Today we have Alex Hyde-White, Mr. Versatility. That's what I like to call him. And I say, and I made him laugh already, but I say that because the guy could do everything. Now, I don't want to go through the list because it'll take all day. We want to get to the conversation. So, producer, director, but most of all, this is close to my heart, actor. I mean, you're an actor's actor, Alex, if you know what I mean.
Well, thank you.
Like the other actors, like myself, we look at you guys and we say, you know, that's the guy we pattern our career after. If we could have a career like Alex Hyde-White,
Well,
we'd be doing something because you're always working, no?
that's kind of you. I do a couple of nice jobs a year. I mean, I think an actor's life is defined, in between jobs, just like a good round of golf is defined of how you keep your composure walking to the next shot. So,
Yes, true.
yeah, no, there's plenty of actors who were more successful earlier on, and to this day work more. But that's sort of a class structure of its own that the market determines. I've I've been doing it for over 45 years, and a young fellow just asked me the other day how he gets into acting, and the first thing I said was, "Well, significant lack of training in anything else, because if you're going to get into it, you can't quit."
Yeah.
And I guess it's a mindset. But through the years, I agree with you, very kindly, in the sense that the longevity and the depth of experience that I have been able to grab and take along the way, sort of like little tidbits, do add up. And a lot of people know me. Most of them, I think, kind of like me out there, and so it's a heck of a journey. And I'm in pretty good shape. I'm touch wood. I hope to be able to keep doing it longer.
Well, you compared what you do to golf. As you go to the next gig, the next job, you have to keep your composure and make sure you have a next job to go to. That's always a good thing to have some place to go after the last endeavor. Would you call yourself a natural? Would you say that it took hard work to conquer this business, or to conquer this skill, or to be good at what you're doing? Or were you just kind of a natural, being as your father was such a good
Yeah.
actor himself?
Well, yeah, that's no. I mean, in honesty, I, I guess, yeah. I mean, I would say that organically, naturally, I took to it. Um, but I was born in that world, as you rightly point out. Uh, Different temperament, different makeup, different nationality. Even though I was born in England, and I play English parts, being raised in America through the culturally significant late '60s and the difficult '70s, and the sort of then the rebirth of the '80s, and now the '90s and 2000s. Lord knows how we're going to define this period we're in now,
Yeah,
but
it's a good question.
it's not one of togetherness. So I've been able to adapt. I think your answer was it hard? And no, it wasn't. Only because, like I said to that young fella, don't get into this thinking you can quit. It's not a part-time. It is. I was going to say it's not a part-time job. Acting itself is a part-time job, but it is not a part-time life. There is a frequency out there, a way of gathering information that, if you can find it and understand it and sort of let it be and not try to control it, then if you find yourself influenced by that, by the world around you, by that frequency, then I think you deserve to translate that, and then you put it back out, and then you literally give it back to the audience in terms of digital entertainment now, which is film and TV. And one of my mediums is audiobook, which I love. I love producing audiobooks. It's classic sit around the radio storytelling that would make my mother's father, my grandfather from New York, was a sound mixer in started hell in the 30s, and they make him happy. So, I mean, I can continue. It's a heck of a question, because how can you say that your career of 45, one's career of over 45 years, defined by peak moments of
Hmm.
wonderful jobs, big movies, Fantastic Four twice. I mean, I've been around so long that I've been in two Fantastic Fours. One has no relevance to the other. Starting at Roger Corman to George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, just sort of run the
Right.
gamut.
Right.
Yes, that is. Those are wonderful moments, but I earned them because, I lived the life in between. I think us Western humans, we're the more I interact and the more I travel, we're defined not so much by the choices we make, but we're defined by what we do. We're defined by how we react to situations. All right. Are we vulnerable to jealousy? Are we tempted by, you pick it, fame, donuts, nobody looking when you need something from the grocery store, and how we make those decisions under that moment of pressure? Okay, really I think really determines our sort of psychic metabolism, so to speak. So when you see a good actor, Ralph, and you've done enough of it, you've been around it,
Hmm.
when you're in the presence of somebody who has that psychic metabolism calibrated, then you listen, you respond. And, I remember a lovely screening of Open Range when Costner had made that movie, and he had Annette Bening and Robert Duvall. And, and Duvall said it's listening and responding.
Mm.
That's it.
But
But
yeah.
there's so much gravel and so much potential filter that we have in our lives that are just built up over time, that how we process what we listen to, how we react to it, determines how we respond. How we respond allows, in this case, the audience to say, hey, yes, that's interesting. That's entertaining, And sometimes the greater you are at it for a certain period of time, Robin Williams, Peter Sellers, John Belushi, it doesn't stay forever. So I cannot define myself in that way, because I'm staying forever. I mean, I'm here.
Yes.
So the way
Yes.
I've done it has to be different. It has to be different than this sort of illuminated brilliance. Okay. I
Mm.
kind of joke to my son that my acting, because, thank God neither one of them are actors yet. They were born and lived in LA, and, could have given it a try if they wanted. But, I said, in a way, my career has been defined by mediocre performances in lousy films, with a few notable exceptions. And,
Hey, we
maybe,
all take some bad jobs sometimes. You
I
take
mean,
what
come
you can
on.
get.
Is that,
Well,
and I'm trying to say that and honestly, I'm not ashamed of it, because it
but
doesn't come easy. So no, it has not been hard, but it certainly doesn't come easy.
well, you threw around Duvall's name, and you threw around some of these guys who make it look easy. I mean, if you see what they do, don't let them catch you acting. You've
Yeah.
heard that before.
Yeah.
And you
Oh yeah.
see Duvall, and if he simplifies it to the point where he's saying, well, it's just listening, responding. To me, he's oversimplifying, because Brando used to say all the time, Alex, that, what I do, anybody can do. I
Yeah.
mean, we all act, he would say we all
Yeah.
act. But,
Yeah.
it's quite a different story to get somebody else's words, make them your own, and then have the crew down your throat and
Yeah.
make this thing come to life. Isn't it? It takes a special skill, no?
Yes, and I think, when I started as a contract player at Universal and then started to get my breaks in independent movies, uh, I I adopted a really efficient technique, and I think that that's what made it easier for me um, to to learn and grow, is because I could take the words from the page and give them a performance pretty quickly, and that makes the crew happy. Hell, if you're and the last 20 years on and off in Hollywood, I would go in for like a day or two on shows like The Mentalist or Without a Trace, or even back in the day, The Murder She Wrote. And people come in every day. Every day there's a day player or some guest star. Uh, but with me, it got to be the point was they knew I was good because the crew was going to be done by 4:30. We were good.
That's part of it.
Yeah, that
People
was
want to
part of
work.
it.
People want to work with you.
And yeah, and you don't have to sweat over it. Okay, I mean, again, it's like golf. It's sometimes the easiest shots to pull off are the longest. Okay, it's when you have to be intricate and finite. That's when you have to be compassionate to yourself. You can't try to force it, because then of course the nervous system breaks down and you start missing. And I think that's where the Duvals and the Brandos and the Daniel Day, when he was in his peak.
Yeah.
Um, and even Robin Williams, when he would focus. And I think that is probably a result of training at a young age. There were these wonderful coaches, the Meisner, Bergdorf, um, in New York, that the Duvals and Dustin Hoffman. These. I think the best thing about Facebook these days is occasionally it delivers to me this wonderful story about when Dustin Hoffman was in acting class. Okay, I mean, it's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
And we've all had those moments. I remember when I was in the presence of Richard Gere for the first couple of days on Pretty Woman. He had that charisma, that old ancient Greek word, which basically means inspired wind, charisma. You know, somebody walks into the room. They say Gina Davis had it when she was starting out. You know, a different, slightly different frequency. That's it. Just a different way of doing things. Brando, he's been gone long enough now that the secrets are probably gone with him. But he would probably tell you that, he was probably having a good laugh with people, he would just, but you see these things. I mean, you see The Godfather. I mean, who does that? He he was so good that even Al Pacino was doing it.
He said he compared that character to a bulldog,
Yeah.
and he kind of gave that whole thing. We won't do a Brando imitation the
No.
whole entire time, I promise, folks. But as far if you realize this, that wasn't even his film per se.
No.
I mean, he was in and out of that film
Yeah.
enough where it became actually Pacino's film.
Yeah.
That's
No.
what's interesting about it.
Yeah. And again, I was reading something about Duvall where he was starting out with Brando in this film, and they started to joke around in in between takes. They put in false teeth, or do a scene, do the coverage without long pants on. So, fun stuff. I mean, come on.
Right.
It's theater is like high school with other people's money. A great quote that Martin Mull said. So hijinks and levity are all part of it. And what struck me the other day when I was reading Duvall's story was that Brando complimented Duvall early by saying, "You've got a good rhythm.
Hmm.
You don't push." So to Duvall, that's a listen and respond kind of thing that I've heard him say. But rhythm, what a wonderful thing to say about an actor. I mean, you think of rhythm, you think of, okay, Peter O'Toole, okay, had a wonderful rhythm, but because of mellifluous. But, you look at Duvall, and everywhere from the conversation to a Lonesome Dove, wide range of characters, yet there is just singularity that in a way only Duvall could do it that way, yet it was completely different. But I thought that was a very interesting way to talk about an actor, was their rhythm, not just the way of speaking, but their rhythm.
Oh, yeah. And I remember Duvall, specifically from The Apostle.
Oh
For
yeah,
some reason, that strikes me. He played opposite Farrah Fawcett in that,
really, yeah, okay.
and he
Early
brought
'80s,
out he
early
yeah,
'80s,
something
wasn't
like that. Maybe 90s, maybe early 90s, maybe around 92 or 3 or something. I may be off. But he brought out the best in what they used to call a TV actor, Farrah Fawcett, who
it?
probably had more chops than we thought that she had the whole entire time.
Yeah,
And that the dynamic between the two were fantastic. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I just want and what school, meaning that I don't mean the actual school. Where do you come from? Are you a Meisner guy? Are
Che
you
no, I tell
an
you,
actor's
Michael.
studio guy?
Easy answer. Michael Chekhov, who was the nephew, I think, of Anton Chekhov, the Russian playwright in the early 20th century. It's a derivative of Stanislavski, but Chekhov, you see, um, what never really resonated with me creative wise was Inside Out. Okay,
Mm,
um, there was a lot of things that I didn't want to explore on the inside. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
but I guess growing up in theater and being a bright kid and having a good ear for accents, I liked what was outside. Okay, and so I've always worked outside in. And I wrote in the book very early on. It was I would get these every once in a while for every few years. Somebody would ask a bunch of questions. It'd be how was Peter Cushing, how was Steven Spielberg, and every once in a while was how do you approach your craft, and that's a dangerous question to get because what they're really asking is how indulgent are you? And
It's
so
true.
I was able to answer it by saying, I when I read something, I can comprehend it pretty quickly, but I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking I know it. But I remember not the first time, but when we were preparing to go to camera on our Hamlet documentary that I made called 3 Days of Hamlet. And it was literally that. It was 3 days of the play in a West Hollywood uh, theater. And we covered everything B-roll with, you and Richard Chamberlain and Stephanie Powers, all the actors talking in sort of Big Brother behind the scenes style with a rehearsal and performance of the staged reading of the play, which was in our hands, but many of the people could play these. It's wonderful text to be able to read and immediately deliver because it's just so present. Um, I said to myself, wait a minute, okay, I put this project together. I'm actually going to be directing it, and I'm actually playing the lead role, which sounds, pretty egotistical. But it's the only way you can do something like that if you're going to do it. It's an Olivier move, or it's an Albert Finney. It's the old David Garrick. It's the old actor manager. This is our play, and it's a part I've always wanted to play. I was about 50 years old, and I figured I better do it quickly. And I listened. I said, wait a minute, I better take about 3 hours and just read this play
Mm.
from start to finish. And I remember I said to my wife when I finished it, Ralph, I swear, and it sounds wonderful and awful at the same time. I literally said, I can play this part. It was just so there. And I let it be right for me. It let this insurmountable object, let it me be right for it. And it was simply that outside in. How is it supposed to sound? How is it supposed to look? Okay, we've all been an audience. Anybody who is going to be interested in, God bless them, and I'll say thank you in advance to hearing any of this that we're
Mm.
doing right now, is because they are interested in the work as an audience or perhaps as a performer, whatnot. But you can't separate the two. And when we've been an audience enough, especially those of us who grew up in the halcyon days of independent American cinema, not even just American, the Truffauts, Jean Renoir, all these wonderful films, golly, if we can understand the genre, then we know what it should be. We know how it should sound and look. And so I've worked more from the outside in, and that's what the Michael Chekhov technique is. It's
Mm.
really about understanding atmospheres? Are you it's almost like a planter. Are you sowing the seeds? Are you dispersing? Are you gathering? Are you resisting? Okay. And there would be, look, you pay a couple $100 a month to go to acting school. So you're going to be standing with some tights on and one leg going push, gather, do all these gestures, psychological gesture, they call it. And, you learn more about this and you really get, hey, it worked for Steve McQueen. It worked for Clint
That's
Eastwood. Okay. When you think, okay, Steve McQueen and Clint Eastwood, you thinking you can't have more two internal American actors of their time, but they would approach it from the outside in. And I thought that was a wonderful dichotomy. I've always been a fan of opposites in acting. If you're playing a drunk, find a moment of sobriety to illuminate it, that kind of thing. And just going on that journey should be interesting. So it was the Michael Chekhov technique that came to me over several years through a wonderful lady named Lisa Dalton, who sort of inherited the mantle. It's a bit, I think Stella Adler was quite an advocate of it as well,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Good. Uta Hagen comes to mind.
yeah, yeah,
When that was a book we had as the Bible. We had to read that book. I remember as a young actor in New York, the respect for acting was a definite on your bookshelf. You had to
yeah,
have it.
yeah, yeah,
When I think of you mentioned Olivier. He used to say, before I put on that putty nose or before I put on whatever I'm going to put on to create whatever I'm trying to create, I'm nothing until I see myself in the mirror with all these
yeah, yeah,
fanciful things on and everything else, and I dress in the full garb. Then I fully realize who I'm playing there. That's really to outside in. That he was
yes,
the
yes.
yeah, that he used to say that,
Well,
and you brought
he was a pyrotechnician. I mean,
mm,
he could illuminate. Imagine these things. I never saw him on stage, um, but he defined that era and deserves to be respected uh, because he was a real hard worker, no doubt about it.
I remember him in Marathon Man.
Yeah.
He made somewhat of a comeback because they thought he was too sick to ever insure ever again.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and they put him in that film. They thought he was dying. That was maybe 1974 or something like that, 75, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
He
late
he li he
70s. Yeah.
lived he lived to 80 he lived to 87.
Yeah, yeah,
1987. He
yeah.
died maybe 12, 13 years later.
Well, you see his
But
Hamlet. They made his that I think they made his Hamlet in 1959, I think it was.
yeah.
And it's a universal film, and it was a Freudian sort of influence.
Mhm.
Um, but I think to this day, if I can get this right, it's the only time where a Best Actor has won the Best Actor Oscar and Best Film for the film that he directed. Okay,
Mm.
Warren Beatty, close. What about Reds? Heaven Can Wait. Yes, it won Best Picture, but not Best Actor. And Olivier directed, played the lead, and it won Best Picture. Okay, and you know that's that's a singular achievement. And what better material? I mean, it's a wonderful play. I think when I was researching it, I had this great humanities professor, the late Michael Allen in UCLA, who was delivered to me as a source, and I would go to his study upstairs, having been his humanities professor since the early 70s. And his son, Ben Allen, is a state representative of Santa Monica right now. So he's a smart fella. And Michael and I would have these wonderful conversations about the origin of the phrase, the ghost says something about sailing from Lethe's Wharf, okay?
Mm.
And you think, okay, Lethe's Wharf, is that like near Chelsea or Battersea? And no, Lethe's Wharf was in mythology was where the barge to hell would leave from. Okay,
Mm.
and
Mm.
who knows these things?
Right,
I mean,
right.
we don't.
Mm.
And it's the great malady of our existence is, and when she dies with beauty dies her store, as as Romeo says, when Michael Allen passed away, with Michael Allen passed this knowledge. And what depth. Because then, of course, when I green screened myself, because I played the ghost, of course, I had to play the ghost. Hell, and that's the whole point of the father and son interacting. And we green screened, and it's in the back while I'm on stage at the Matrix Theater reacting. And they'd say this line, and I understood what that meant. It basically means you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Literally. And these
Yeah.
tidbits, these things, and if you can learn things like that when you're a young man, to bring it around here, when you're a young Dustin Hoffman or a young Val Kilmer, or a young Robin Williams, and you can learn these things from John Houseman, from Uta Hagen, from Herbert Bergdorf, or in my sense, from Lisa Dalton via Chekhov. They are nuggets. Talk about planting and sowing seeds. They are nuggets when planted early. You know, there was a tide in the affairs. There was a tide in the affairs of men, which taken to the flood leads to great fortune. Again, from Julius Caesar. These nuggets of metaphor, of language, are embedded all through Shakespeare, and they can also be embedded in the Christmas movie that I'm reading to film in Ohio in January. It's a Christmas film. But there will be parts of that script that will mean something more than just furthering the plot of a Christmas film. And those are the lovely things that I like to sort of discover and indulge in. And then, of course, going back to don't get caught acting, don't get caught indulging in it. Just understand
That's true.
and let it color you.
That's right. They're very true. If I throw some names at you, just your first response. Bob Newhart.
Two responses. One personally, and as a fan, even his early record days, he was almost the king of the non sequitur. You know, you must feel Bob Newhart's comedy as trying to either connect or defuse a bomb. Let's hope you get the right wire to the right screw, you know?
Yeah.
And then personally, it was when they hired me to play Scooter Drake in the last season of Newhart, with a lovely couple of episodes of a young New York socialite with more money than sense. And he had a lot of money, but he also had a lot of sense. And that led to Pretty Woman. So that was a great experience professionally. To work with someone like that. Yeah.
Angela Lansbury.
Consummate technician. Now, when you look at that, it almost sounds like, you know, a home builder or something. But when you think of Angela, she was the same age as Lawrence Harvey, wasn't it, when they did The Manchurian Candidate? Yet
That was about maybe 2 years older. That's it.
Right. They cast her as the mother. Okay. Why? Because she could do it. But couldn't they hire Gina Rollins or somebody? But no, or whoever it was, no. So when I worked with Angela twice on the Murder, She Wrote, she just had a way about her that brought out your best. So she was a great facilitator. She really helped you do your best work. And she was a master technician. Absolutely. Very, very facile with language, but crisp, on point, but very compassionate.
How was that set? Was it a friendly set? Was it a comfortable set?
Yes. She and her husband ran that set, and they owned CBS. I was just reminiscing the other day with my wife about how Angela Lansbury owned 8 o'clock on Sunday nights. I think it was after 60 Minutes.
Yeah, for years.
And Jeff Sagansky was running the network, and they re-upped the show, which guaranteed Angela Lansbury that time slot. Okay, well, it didn't, until it was over. But yeah, it was. She deserved it. She was a hard worker, no doubt about it.
She was fantastic.
I
remember her as yeah. Go ahead.
No, what? You go.
No, a young ingenue in something. The Picture of Dorian Gray. Maybe she was about 22 years old. Well, she had a presence even then. I don't know if you remember the film
with Dirk Bogarde, was it?
yeah. I don't know the other
English,
actors,
an
but
English film.
it was a great film. It's a sleeper because nobody
Yeah, I
knows
don't
about it
know.
these
Yeah.
days, very few. But she was
Well,
just maybe 22, 23 years old, but yes, she was an old soul.
when she had her, when she was given this power that she had earned with Murder She Wrote because of its performance, she was really known for bringing people that she had admired or liked, or even if you just earned it through an audition, or the casting director at Universal basically would say, "Okay, Alex, now's your turn. Come in, do a good job." They would bring you back in a completely different character, and they would pay you double top of the show because at that point, a lot of the actors didn't work a lot, but they were known and they needed the insurance money, and so she would. That show, if you could get a couple of Murder She Wrote, you could get insurance for the year.
That's good. That pays off. I'll give you one that maybe it has to go back a little bit. My favorite, I'm indulging myself now, Jack Klugman. Because
Again,
I know you
simple.
did so. I know you did some
I
Quincy's.
started out with Quincy's. I think I did 4 episodes, a couple when I was under contract, and then we had the same agent, Abby Greshler, who was my dad's agent. Klugman, he was a dynamo. You know, he was too big to call you call him a battery. Robert Conrad was a battery, okay?
Yeah.
But Klugman, you know, he was Oscar Madison. I mean, you know, he was that seeming schlub of a character that you would underestimate, but he'd be the last guy standing. Again, similar to Angela, just a very loyal, compassionate actor. Um, he had a lot of energy, and my dad was always funny when he would, if somebody would move their hands too much as an actor, he'd say, "Hey,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that's you don't need to do that." And so he would always have a laugh at Klugman because Klugman would, "No, you know, it's going to be like this, and it's going to be like that," you know. Yeah, yeah. But
Everything he
no,
did. Yeah.
Jack was great. I mean, I remember, I hadn't done much at all. I guess, when did I start? 1979. This might have been 81, and I was playing I guess a doctor or a nurse practitioner in an episode about SIDS, about sudden infant death syndrome. And I had this speech. You know, he was the coroner. So tell me what happened. Just relax, kid. Tell me what happened. And I had this half-page speech about the death of this child. And at the end of it, he just sort of leaned forward. He says, "You're good. You're going to do all right." And that was just words on a page. I had not gone to drama school. I had envied those who had firsthand stories of the Uta Hagens and the Stella Adlers. I grew up basically backstage at the Duke of York's Theater. And when I could run faster than them that was chasing me, at about age 16, I left home. And in funny sort of way, I've never been back. I've charted my own path. And to have words on paper that obviously are meant to be convey the emotional core of this episode of a TV show, which is not my episode. It is not my TV show. And then to have Jack immediately, you know, acknowledge, support, and then for the director to say, "Cut, moving on." You know, boy, that was a moment, and I was inspired by that moment. I felt then that okay, and it's happened a few times in auditions. Uh, that again, going back to what we were talking about half an hour ago, there's a frequency out there that if you let it in and can ride it, ride that little wave, that it can live forever, basically, you know, metaphysically speaking.
When you were making Fantastic Four, did you know it was going to be iconic? Did you know what you were making, or did you think, well, I'm not quite sure, but we'll see?
You know, I knew it was good because we all got it right. Uh, and you know, if you see the sets creak, if you cringe at some of the rudimentary special effects, then good on you. That's not us. I mean, that was the bus we were in on. You know, that bus had old tires and it didn't have a spare. And we were traveling for 90 minutes, and dang it, we brought it in. What happened to that movie just kept on sort of being unbelievable, and then the story about it. Uh, and so we were sort of conditioned to be mean to it in a way, to sort of run away from it. But I never did. It was a wonderful part for me. I was #1 on the call sheet, and I loved it. My representatives and people in Hollywood who could get over the fact that it's a Roger Corman film, therefore it doesn't count. They knew I could carry a film, and this was a low budget action adventure movie. And you know, there was been stuff written. If this movie had come out, Alex Hyde-White but this movie didn't come out, and Alex Hyde-White was denied a career as an action adventure, you know, sort of a la Indiana Jones style of hero. I don't know if that's true. I mean, obviously, I don't know if that's true. All I know is for those 38 days plus a week of reshoots, and for the last 34 years, I've proudly remembered that project. It's more than a film. It's now a part of, you know, a small part of American film memorabilia. You know, it's. But I guess, you know, you asked me, was it any good in a way? And yeah, you know, for many reasons, it was great. I mean, we all did it. We all did well in that, so much that for years everyone else sort of feasted on it, and finally now Marvel has, I guess, what have they done? Have they squared the circle? Have they they've honored what might have been a dishonor? Is that a sensible way to put it?
Oh yeah, good answer. Oh yeah, I'm with you. Pound for pound. This is just, these things just coming to me. Pound for pound, who's the most talented individual that you ever stood across? And by the way, the ones you don't mention, this doesn't mean that
I'll tell
they're
you, no.
they're
I'll tell you
lacking.
right.
But just go ahead, tell me.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Ah, Mr. Versatility, like you are. But he could sing and dance and do the whole bit.
And look what he had to go through. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was a Rat Pack. Sinatra, obviously, you know, if Jack Klugman was nice to me, imagine how nice Sinatra was to Sammy Davis. Okay. Yes. But nobody gives you stuff to help you when it's a commercial business. It's because you provide something that they can't or won't do, and you do it better than anybody else. Sammy Davis Jr. was the singular most talented man I had ever been in contact with. And I'd done a film in England, and in '85, and Sammy Davis's wife was a friend of a friend, and oh, you live in LA. You know how people like to say, oh, you live in Los Angeles. You know, you should meet Walter Annenberg. Okay, great. You live in Los Angeles. You should meet Altabese Davis. And sure enough, and Sammy was great. We'd go over to his house and watch the Super Bowl. He came to the screening of the LA screenings of Biggles, which was his movie. And we would go to his concerts, and big and small. He did the show with Liza and Frank at the Greek that we went to. And, you know, then this would have been 86, 87. And then a couple of years later, you know, Sammy was pretty much almost finished. I think he aged sort of early, but what a life. And he was not in tremendous shape physically, bones and whatnot. But when he got out there on stage, he was infused with this manifest energy. And he loved to perform, and the audience loved it. And so you'd sort of watch somebody overcome banality, overcome normality, and just give you all that he could. And that was impressive. You know, Sammy Davis. There are some other very talented people. You know, musicians, I think, are easy to praise when you would go see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and I came of age right around the time they did, and so I think I don't know if I saw him 20 times or 30 times, and
Really?
I don't really count, but I got to know Scotty Thurston, who was his second guitar player through golf, and he was with him from got 97 till the end for 20 years. So we'd all, my wife and my sons, when they were old enough, we were friends and family. We would go and we would see so many Tom Petty shows, so much so that, how was it? Oh, it was excellent. That was excellent. They were just so good. So good, And I think
Yeah.
Springsteen fans will probably feel the same way.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Petty was a talented guy. Learning more about him, reading about him, how he would sort of sit in his quiet room in Malibu and refer to it as going fishing. Sometimes he catches one, and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he pulls it up, and damn, it's wildflowers or it's free fall. Yeah,
Hey, my
that's
wife's a big Petty fan. She talks about him all the time, and
yeah.
she's very sorry that he passed so young.
Is that
What he wasn't my cup of tea, but I could appreciate what he did.
Well, you're a Springsteen guy. Come on.
Not really, not really. I used to be maybe in 1975, and I would actually say, Alex, I would say, "Well, I got this new album, Bruce Springsteen," and people would say, "Who?
Yeah,
Who?"
yeah,
Because until he came into his own with Born to Run, I think Born to Run was the turning point.
yeah,
He was a Jersey kind of concert guy
yeah,
that Jersey people knew and nobody else did. But
yeah.
nevertheless, well, one role. These questions. One role that you say I have yet to play, maybe a classic, maybe something else that I want to play. Now I'm not a 25-year-old kid anymore, but I
Yeah,
still would like to play this role. Anything?
yeah. Um, I'd like to do a caper film. I mean, I'd like to do it's like an around the world in 80 days kind of. I think I'm pretty good with light drama and light comedy. And I'd like to be involved in an ensemble of a caper, like maybe one of these Death on the Nile kind of movies that Ken Branagh makes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I sometimes find myself in the middle of the night thinking, I think something good is there's something good coming. You wait and see. There's something good coming eventually. I got my psychic eye on the horizon, and I'm living in Florida Panhandle now. After 40 years in LA, they finally let me out for good behavior 3 years ago. So I'm halfway closer to the rest of the world, and I have a feeling I would love to work in England and Europe again, like when I started out. I'd like to go on an adventure. So if that means a film or just an exotic location, um, yeah. My favorite genre is action adventure. Um, not a great fan of murder mystery, things like that. But again, if it was like an Agatha Christie kind of ensemble piece, that would be cool.
Do you have uh, do you have something that's just burning inside you when you get on stage? Well, I don't know if you do theater work anymore. Do you
No, I
still
did
feel
for years in LA before I left. Yeah, yeah.
do you have the enthusiasm that you once had? Do you feel that
Well, yeah,
magical
funnily enough,
feeling?
I didn't do much theater when I was starting out. Again, it was not typical. Sorry, hold on one second.
It's okay, I got you.
Yeah, where we are. I didn't do much theater starting out. Um, and so when I got to it, I was in my 40s, and I would do and I would again with the Chekhov people. I did George in Mice and Men, and then I did a few comedies from a LA writer named Jeff Gould that were pretty funny. Um, and I enjoyed it very much. I think I found that the trouble with theater, particularly smaller fringe theater, is that sometimes the director, if he's a writer, he's such a control. It's sometimes hard to work with someone else if they're really demonstrative about how it should be. Growing up in my world, I suppose I embraced collaboration, and That's probably, I don't know how well I would have done in acting school because of these stories are legion about people getting broken down and whatnot. You know, I didn't need to go to acting school to get broken down. I could get that at home. So
Oh, but yeah, the thing about acting is that you have to have the enthusiasm, and sometimes it just dies. Sometimes I've known actors in my past. I used to talk to them, that's all they talked about, Alex. They could not stop talking about the craft, everything else. We used to sit for hours and talk
yeah,
about it. Then
yeah,
I'd go to and I'd say, what are you doing these days?" "Well, I'm a salesman now.
yeah.
I'm working in this kind of field right now, far removed from this other thing that we used to love so much."
Well, look, you only have so much ammo. If you burn it up, you're
That's
done.
true.
You know.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Do you think it's a kids, you're playing make believe, and people from at a certain time they say, how long can I actually play make believe? Can make people believe these nonsensical situations, you know?
yeah. I mean, sometimes you can work too much. I mean, you look at these wonderful actors. J.K. Simmons comes to mind. Sam Jackson. I mean, they probably spend 40 weeks a year on location. What's
Yeah.
and God bless them, but that's the life that they've chosen. Um, a lot of actors like to say, "I'll do one or two jobs a year because I want to take my kids to school. I want to live a life." I find more and more now it's become okay not to live in LA. A lot of actors have left in the last 15, 20 years. And um, production has also left. But you're now talking about acting as something to do as opposed to a life's choice. Look, if you are going to become a clergyman, you're going to go to school, you're going to get educated, you're going to get ordained, and let's hope you're infused with the Holy Spirit so that you spread, pick your adjective, peace, love, and joy in your denomination for 40 years. If after 15 years you say, "You know what, I never really believed in God," whoa, you have done a disservice to yourself.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
And there's a spiritual life to an actor, there is a spiritual value to the work. Um, and it should be treated with respect. And it should be, it's most effective when it's considered a calling. Now, if you just haven't got enough jobs and you're waiting tables or you're driving a cab, hell, I wrote my book. My book just isn't about the 120 jobs I've been on that are on IMDb. It's also about the dozen that, everybody does: the cab driver, the cook, go deliver this and don't ask what it is kind of things that you do. I mean, whatever it is. But that is the trappings of fame that force us when we live in Hollywood or New York or any other place that's almost impossible to succeed unless you get lucky. We have to do things like that to make ends meet. Okay. And when you're given enough work and given enough opportunity, then you're fueled. It's like you're a horse race trainer. My God, I finally got a good horse. I can stay in business for another couple of years. So
yeah.
I find now that I'm producing audiobooks, we have this nice audiobook company that really does well with independent authors because so many people write a book like I did, but then they don't really know, whoa, how do you distribute it? Or how do I turn it into a movie? Or how do I make it an audiobook? Well, we make it into an audiobook. Um, there are an awful lot of actors now because the audiobook world is part of AFTRA. It used to be part of AFTRA, which is now SAG-AFTRA. Okay, so it's joined. But God bless them. They think they're actors simply. But what I'm saying is, you're not an actor just because you have a union card.
Mm.
Okay, and just because you got a union card doesn't make you an actor. It might make you someone who can audition, and if you get a job, yes, you can go and do it. But are you an actor who needs to sell real estate on the side? That's fine. But most of the time, if you're doing that, you got to realize that you know the jobs you get as an actor are going to be few, and they might not be that rewarding, and so you can become disenchanted. You can run out of energy. But I also think that if you talk too much about it, especially, you know, in your 20s and 30s, by the time
Yeah.
you're 40 and 50, you might be done, man. You know, you got only so
Yeah.
much ammo in that can.
Well, that's a good way to put it. And you're so right about that
You
because
gotta, you gotta respect it. You gotta protect it. And Daniel Day will tell you that. Brando would have told you that.
yeah, we're back to Brando again because
Duval, Duval
yeah,
will pretend. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
he never respected acting. Well, maybe he said he didn't, but maybe he did deep down. Who knows? But yeah, I bring him up because he was my guy. He's what got me into acting in the first place. Without watching On the Waterfront and A Streetcar Named Desire, I don't think I would have, delved into it. But that was me.
I see.
Did you have one influence growing up aside from your father?
You know, it was I think it was the Clint Eastwood movies of the spaghetti westerns and that kind of presence on film. I think I was probably influenced more by directors than I was actors.
That's interesting.
Warren Beatty was somebody who I aspired to because you know he was beautiful, he was in focus, and he ran the whole show. So and then Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman, as a young actor starting out, and then of course I got into Ishtar, which was their infamous debacle in the desert with Elaine May. That you look at it now, 30 years later, and it was always a funny film. It's very similar to Fantastic Four. It got ripped for the wrong reasons. But when I was hired by Elaine May to play a CIA guy, me and Matt Frewer followed. We were with Chuck Grodin. We followed Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman through the desert of Morocco and then back in Astoria Studio in Queens. It was a dream job, and they were my two influences right there. And you know, I mean, I was in a few shots with them, so that's what I aspired to as a young fella, and that's what was given to me. Therefore, I can say I achieved that. But I didn't stop there. I now, you know, last 20 or 30 years, I've sort of appreciated being the actor manager or the sort of the alpha bit of the teacher, the inspirer, and the people who've come to me to do this Christmas movie because of like Fantastic Four, and they know me from the documentary of Fantastic Four. They want that energy that I bring, and I hope, like Angela Lansbury, it can be inspiring, it can be encouraging, but it has to be technically correct. It has to be okay. We're working here, but we're going to have a good time. You know, that's kind of where I'm at, and the audiobook world, my audiobook productions, of which we produced 600 of them over the last 12, 14 years. That is real storytelling, and it's simple and fun. And I really like to work with actors. We cast a lot of actors, but they're really good narrators. They're really good storytellers, and they have to have this malleable quality that it's so easy to lose that malleable quality when you become a professional actor for some reason, you know. It's because it's such a psychological game. Imagine being a circus performer and suddenly getting to be in the big show and losing that malleable quality. Oh my gosh. You know, or a professional golfer. You know, there's the same to it. We have so much time on our hands as actors, even when we're working on, especially on a big movie, you know, the days off, the minutes or the hours, they pay us to wait. We act for nothing. I think that's an Orson Welles saying. Yeah.
It's true. And
So
you
there's a,
see
you know,
these kids when they lose their quality, the young actors, I mean the child actors. They have this
yeah,
quality about them, then they get to be 12 and 13 and 14. Some hold on to it, but some kind of just
well,
lose it somehow. But it's exactly what you were talking about. You're a joy to talk to, and I have to say goodbye, but I don't want to say goodbye. So promise me in a few months' time we do this again. It's
wherefore
really
art thou,
fun. It's
Romeo?
really yes. I never played that part either. I
I
played
did.
Mercutio. I played Mercutio. You played
Mercutio's the
Romeo?
part.
Yeah, right.
Mercutio was the part because you were done by 9:15.
I was going to say I croaked halfway through, but you know, but
Anytime,
Alex,
Ralph.
hi. Yeah,
I
I
can
appreciate it, Alex. Thank you so much.
I can riff with the best of them. Not quite as good as Sammy Davis, but I was there when he
Oh,
did. So
are you kidding? You are
all
fantastic.
right,
Thank you so much.
let's keep it going. And thanks to your audience. God bless. Take
Okay,
care.
man. Take care.